Are you an experienced nurse or are you an expert nurse? When a group of nurses are asked if they want to be an expert nurse, the vast majority of them, of course, are going to say yes. When you ask for specifics about how they're becoming an expert nurse, responses start to get a little vague and not very specific. Few are going to actually have a plan on how they're becoming an expert nurse. This is why there's actually relatively few expert nurses versus the number of experienced nurses out there. Hello, my name is Craig Button, and over the next 5 to 7 minutes I'm going to talk to you about becoming an expert nurse versus just being an experienced nurse. Kind of an overview of things. In 1992, Patricia Benner published her thesis, From Novice to Expert. This spelled out the steps and the progression of being a beginning nurse to being this expert nurse that she envisioned. Although this thesis has become a very important part in basic nursing education, it's got some gaps in it that need to be filled. This thesis and future publications don't really define what an expert nurse is in a way and in a language that can be clearly understood and utilized by the working nurse. And this was kind of like spelled out by a person by the name of Altman in 2007. They also aren't really given the tools in nursing school on how to progress from the novice to an expert nurse. Most pick up the idea that just by putting in their time and working in a specific area, they will become an expert nurse. My first major point on this is the definition of an expert nurse. There are many definitions, and some of them are spelled out by English in 1993. These definitions include comments as intuition and synergy, the development of a highly analytical ability, and this deep knowledge and analytical ability are supposed to keep the expert nurse from falling into the traps that catch newer nurses. Not real specific, is there? This kind of means that every nurse has to develop their own definition and own picture of what an expert nurse is. Look at nurses that you know that you consider being expert nurses, see what makes them tick, try to emulate them, and you'll find out that it takes actually more than just doing your time to become an expert nurse. My second point kind of builds into that experience versus expertise. Most nurses who have been working in a certain area over any length of time are going to consider themselves being an expert nurse in that area. This graphic is going to show a slightly different picture to that. You have a copy of that graphic in front of you. Hackos and Stevens showed in 1997 in the Standards for Offline Communication that the spreads of these domains isn't what we expected. They looked at a lot of different professions and work areas, and this is what they came up with. 5% novice and expert and proficient, 20% of the people make that competent performer. The 65% who are stuck on the advanced beginner will probably surprise most people. It surprised me. Nurses tend to repeat the same day over and over. The names and the faces of the patients may change, but it's basically the same day over and over. Just like Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day, repeating February 2nd over and over. It wasn't until he started learning something new every day that he started moving on till eventually he actually won the girl. So repeating the same day over and over just makes you an experienced nurse, not an expert nurse. In order to overcome this, Erickson in 2008 identified that nurses need to have a goal and a plan, and that they need to be constantly learning. This learning needs to be broad subject matter educationally and not just focused in your immediate little specialty area. I like to say it's not by reading and thinking outside the box, you just need a bigger box. For example, in my area of specialty in emergency medicine, we touch into everything. So I try to read a little bit in cardiology, some pediatrics, some orthopedics, as well as the things that focus directly on emergency medicine. To kind of close things up, I'll kind of review a little bit. With some simple steps, you can be an expert nurse. You need to have a picture in your mind as to what an expert nurse is to you. You use this as a mirror to compare your nursing practice and see where you're at. With that picture in mind, set measurable goals. For example, in a year from now, I'm going to take the specialty certification exam in my area. I use that as a tool to see the knowledge base and that you've accomplished that. You got to look and watch others, read the work of others, and network with other nurses in your specialty area. See who else is doing what out there. And this is one area that social media, Twitter, Facebook, and platforms like that can help. Take the time to actually sit down and read the theories of Patricia Benner. Now that you're out of nursing school, you read it in a different light, and you may have some new insights in how it's going to help you be a better nurse. Have a plan and a schedule. Make sure you schedule time to read nursing journals, blogs, listen to podcasts. Be mindful of what you're doing and constantly review your practice. Nursing has plenty of excellent, experienced nurses that provide fantastic nursing care. We need more expert nurses to guide and advance our profession. Thank you very much.